Good evening, boys and ghouls. Welcome back to another Round the Clock Fright segment. My name is Kimberly, and today I am going to be reviewing the 2023 film Scream 6. Now, Scream 6 was on my highly anticipated horror movies of 2023, so I was very excited when I heard that the release of this movie was coming out this year, and I was like, I am definitely going to go see it because I really enjoyed the fifth one out of the installment. And even though when the fifth one came out, I was a little skeptical, like, okay, they're bringing back Scream, you know, it's not gonna have Wes Craven, it's not gonna be the same, so I don't know how this was gonna go. But like the way they put that together and they made it more of a continuation to the previous films instead of trying to do like the reboots that they've been doing lately, it was really nice. It had its nice touch and it made it seem a little bit more modern, which I love. Like they talk about like requels, so, and just like different little things that they try to put after, you know, like years of technology enhancing and you know, like horror movies being more today. I liked that they kind of brought that to the table while also going back and just kind of you know, giving us like a recall from the other Scream movies and how the formula of horror movies went then compared to now, which was really nice. I enjoyed the fifth one, so once the fifth one ended, I was definitely very curious to see where they were going to go with this movie. So I am definitely really excited to talk about this. I do have a lot of things in this movie that I really enjoyed. Like, I would say I overall enjoyed it more so, but there is a few things that I wasn't very happy with, and that could have been done a lot better. But I will go ahead and I will discuss that in this review. There may be some minor spoilers in there. I'm not going to try and go too much into details in case you haven't seen the movie yet and that you plan on going to see it. A lot of it needs to have a good little suspense and surprise. So I'm not going to spoil too much, but there may be some minor details. And if you don't want any of those minor details spoiled, definitely, and you haven't seen the movie, definitely go back, watch the movie, and then come back and watch your review and let us know what you think.
That too? Who'd want to do that? Sequels suck.
No, wow.
Come on, man.
Oh, please. By definition alone, they're inferior films.
It's bullshit generalization. Many sequels have surpassed their original.
Oh, yeah?
Name one.
Yeah.
I am going to go ahead and get into the review. So the 2023 Scream 6 basically starts off, I want to say it was a year after the events of Scream 5. This time they're bringing Ghostface to New York, which was kind of exciting. It gave me a little bit of Jason Takes Manhattan vibes, which was kind of interesting, even though we all know Jason Takes Manhattan wasn't the greatest Friday the 13th movie. It was kind of interesting and a little scary at the same time, like, how they're gonna go with this. Hopefully good. But yeah, it gave me a lot of Friday the 13th Jason Takes Manhattan vibes. And if I recall, there is a scene in there where they give us a little honorable mention to, I believe it was Jason Takes Manhattan, where one of the characters is watching Friday the 13th on their TV, and we get kind of like a glimpse of it, which was kind of nice. Like, this movie was just really chock full of Easter eggs, and I really enjoyed that. It was Easter eggs on just classic horror in general, modern day horror, and then it even goes obviously back and gives us some like flashbacks of the previous Scream movies that I really enjoyed. That was probably like, I'd probably say my favorite part of the movie was just finding these fun little Easter eggs in the movie. So I was really excited about it. But this movie basically opens up just like any other Scream movie, where you have one of the not so main characters, somebody they just bring in that you know right off the bat is going to get killed, because we need to start every Scream movie off like that. And it was interesting because the actress who plays this opening shot is no other than Samara Weaving. Hopefully I said her name right. I think it was Samara Weaving. But she played in Ready or Not, which is actually the same director who directed Scream 6 also directed Ready or Not. So it's kind of interesting to see them bring her. And if you've seen Ready or Not, we know her character was a real badass. She was one of like the coolest final girls in like some of the more recent horror. So it was kind of interesting to see her come into this film and not just play the badass that we all knew from Ready or Not, but she ends up being a character that ends up not lasting long in the movie, which was very, very unfortunate. But she nails it. She does a very, very amazing performance on it, because it starts off where she's in a restaurant. She's waiting for her date to come, and she gets a call from her date saying that he's just around the corner, and you know, basically wanting her to give a description what the restaurant looked like, because he was close by and the streets were crowded with people. And yeah, and then of course, just like any Scream movie, it starts off with, what is your favorite horror movie? Or yeah, what is your favorite scary movie? Sorry, not horror movie, same thing, but yeah. But they said, what is your favorite scary movie? And then of course the character goes into detail on what their favorite horror movie is. And I believe she kind of goes the route of like saying that she loves watching the classic horror movies, with a little bit of splice in of some of the modern, which is kind of cool. And then just as everything starts to kind of pick up, the guys saying, oh, he's here, but you know, like, he doesn't, like, does the restaurant look like this? So then you have her character going out looking, so she gets a little bit more closer and closer to the guy, until she finally realizes that it's not her date, and it is Ghostface. And so we see him as she's going down the alley, and realizes right off the bat that, hey, this isn't right. And she sees Ghostface in the flesh coming right at her, and ends up stabbing her right in the stomach and ending her character right there. And then right off the bat we get, of course, a Ghostface reveal, which we all knew that wasn't going to be the actual Ghostface throughout the whole movie, but just, you know, one of the many Ghostfaces, I guess. But I think in the last, like, previous Scream movies, we didn't really get a Ghostface reveal in the first bit of it, so it was kind of interesting. But like, you already know that they weren't going to be the main, because nobody reveals Ghostface until the end. So the guy basically reveals himself. He's like a college student. He goes back to his dorm. So like the first part of that beginning sequence isn't over yet, because you got, you know, after he stabs her, he basically covers it all up, you know, like throws his stuff in the bag. You realize he knows Tara, one of our lead actresses from the previous movie, a recurring character, and you're like, okay, so, you know, either he's maybe behind it, or he knows the real Ghostface, and he's just one of the many accomplices, or not accomplices, but the many, what do you call it? You know, backups that helps the main Ghostface. So he goes back to his apartment, he's calling out for his roommate, his roommate's not there, and of course we get a phone call from Ghostface. This time, he's thinking it's his friend, you know, I guess they were in on the gig of, basically, they had to finish Richie's movie, and you're thinking, okay, so maybe they were a part of this, but not really, because then, as it picks up more and more, the person on the phone asks him, like, what he thinks, like, or how did it feel for him to kill the woman, which we find out was actually his professor, who gave him a really bad grade, and he just needed to kill her, which was kind of like, okay, like, get a bad grade, we're gonna kill you, but okay. And comes to find out either he messed up, or they just didn't really want to keep him alive, because he ends up dying along with his roommate, who wasn't even in the first sequence. We just see him as Ghostface is playing Hot and Cold, Hot and Cold with him, and he finds out that his roommate is chopped up into pieces in his refrigerator, which was like, okay. So the beginning sequence kind of played out a little bit longer than the usual, you know, like past Scream movies, but it was kind of interesting to see the dynamic and the setup and what we were about to face throughout the rest of this movie. But I would say it was very, very well, because you realize that, hey, this is what's gonna happen next. And then of course we get after that it goes into introducing us back to some of our reoccurring characters from the previous Scream, and that is always fun.
Y'all, curious, what's my biggest fear?
Oh,
Not nipples, that's mine.
yeah.
Dying alone.
That is actually my biggest fear.
Really?
That's we're done.
So I really liked how they opened up the shot to kind of give us a feel of what Scream 6 was gonna go, and of course we get our nostalgia of having like what happens in every Scream movie of the first character getting set up to die, except for Tara in the 5th one. We know she had that beginning sequence but ends up surviving, so you never know at that point. But yeah, so other than that, like, I think everything really played out well in this movie. Like I said, I really enjoyed the Easter eggs. There was one sequence in this movie that I enjoyed more than others. It was kind of a fun, very intense scene, but it's the train scene that we see in the trailer. But I really enjoyed it because it really builds up the tension. Like, at this point, it's like halfway through the movie, you've already got, you know, characters and people already, you know, dying off because of Ghostface. We still don't know who Ghostface is, you know, and of course we have Mindy, who is what was his name? Randy's niece, coming back and doing basically a Randy dialogue on sequels and what to prepare yourself for and who's the victim and who's not the victim. So at this point we have her guessing who, you know, like trying to figure out who the victim and who the Ghostface is in this whole movie, and it's you know, it was really fun to watch. But the sequence was very intense because they're all trying to basically get to the bottom of this and figure it out, and at the same time, you know, something's gonna happen. So I really enjoyed it. It was very well put together, and I do like the build up that it did give you to the very last part of that scene. And like I said, I won't go into details of that because it is a really fun scene, and I really think you should see that more so than like me kind of getting into details of it. But I really liked it. It was a very, very fun and intense scene. But yeah, would I say this movie was the best sequel in the series? Sorry. Again, like I said, it was very fun. There was some things that I wasn't too big of a fan on in this movie, but I did enjoy it. I wouldn't say it's on the like ranking all 6 Scream movies. I wouldn't say it's my number one. Like, my number one will always be the original, of course. But it's definitely up there because there is some that are worse than this one, and Scream 3 was not a fan of that one, but definitely better than that one in my opinion. But yeah, so I would definitely say it wasn't the best, but it was still fun, and it's still up there on my list. And also, as we were talking about, we do have some recurring roles. One of the questions I got was, does the film suffer because we do not, unfortunately, get a screen time for Neve Campbell? And I would say, as much as we love Neve Campbell in the movies, and she just brings a lot of like that badass final girl moment, and we just love Sydney Prescott. She's probably one of my favorite final girls. I would still say the film alone without her, of course, isn't the same, but wouldn't say it suffered because we already had a good established build up with a lot of the reoccurring characters from the last Scream 5, so we were kind of wanting to see what happens to them. And because they've built a connection with, you know, of course, the audience and us wanting to see them come back again and see what happens. I felt like even though she was not back in this film, it didn't suffer as much as we thought it was. Like, when we first heard that she wasn't coming back, it was kind of like, oh no, what are they going to go with this? But at the same time, we still wanted to see what happens. I think it would have been cool to have her come back, but at the same time, I think it was kind of nice to kind of bring forth some of the other, you know, like the other characters who we have already started to grow to love and see what happens to them. So they kind of already built that with the audience, which I really, really enjoyed, that the film still continued to carry on even without her. So what sort of commentary is in this film? Because obviously it's the 2022 Scream. They commented on like legacy sequels and reboots, and a lot of this one kind of carries forth what we got in Scream 5, where we have our, you know, our characters Mindy and Chad, who are Randy's niece and nephew, as I've said before, coming back into this movie and basically carrying over a lot of that commentary and giving us a breakdown on, now we're in the sequel, this is what's going to happen, this is what we're expecting, and it's, you know, breaking down the formula. So we still get that even in this movie, excuse me, like we did in the last movie, which was really nice. And then it also added a little bit of a touch to it, like we got a lot of like newer stuff, like, okay, even though this is a sequel, this is also a sequel to a requel, and a lot could be changed. A lot can happen at this point that we can't predict.
There's a formula to it. A very simple formula. Everybody's a suspect.
And lastly, who gives the best performance in this film? That is kind of hard, because like a lot of these actors in this movie did an amazing job. I would have to say my favorite would be the actress, I can't think of her name right off the top of my head, who played Sam. She was probably one of my favorites in this the newer Scream movies, because with her character, we already know she's the daughter of Billy Loomis. So it was kind of interesting to see what happens to her, because of at the end of the Scream 5, she ends up killing Richie, and she, you know, you kind of see a little bit of an unhinged moment with her as she's stabbing him. So at this point, you're kind of questioning going into this movie, like, is she gonna become the next Ghostface because she's Billy Loomis's daughter? Is she gonna end up being the hero again? Like, what's gonna happen? And the actress really, really played that well, where you could not tell whether that character was going to go one way or the other, and whatever way it would have been very interesting to see. But I think she did an amazing performance on that, you know, on her character alone, and I really liked her. Hers stood out the best. Second, I definitely have to say Jenna Ortega, who played Tara, which would have been Sam's sister. I just really like that actress. She does a lot of other films that I've seen her in. She did the new I think it was 2022, but Wednesday by Tim Burton, and she did You season 2. And she's an amazing actress that kind of basically sprouted from the bottom up and has been just doing really amazing films or amazing performance in films, and her acting just gets better and better, and I enjoy seeing her on the screen, because she's always got like this another really badass character moments in all 3 films I've seen her in. And so it was kind of interesting. I would have to say she's probably my second favorite. Did an amazing job, because now you have Tara, who in the last Scream movie didn't really have a whole lot of screen time. Like, obviously, you know, in the first half of the first part of the movie, she gets stabbed and she's in the hospital. And I mean, of course, you get a little bit more of her towards the end when she comes out and they have to basically go and fight Ghostface. But like in this one, she's, you know, there from beginning to end, and you got her character who starts off, you know, wanting her space because Sam is very smothering with her and wanting to hold her close because of what they've been through in the last year. And she's just like, no, we have to move on. This can't continue forward. All the way to the point where it's like, okay, this is all happening again, and we need to stand our ground and we need to fight. And the way her character basically escalates up is really good. And she has a really fun scene at the very end, right after the Ghostface reveal, that I thought was like, okay, wasn't expecting that, but that was pretty cool. So I'd have to say hers was probably my second after Sam. And then of course you have the other characters in the movie who did an amazing, like the actors and actresses did an amazing job, and definitely enjoyed watching them on the screen. Like, there probably wasn't one who didn't do that, you know, didn't do good. But yeah, I would definitely have to say Sam and Tara are my top two favorites of Scream 6. But yeah, so other than, like, I've talked about all the stuff that I really enjoyed with this. Like I said, the Easter eggs are really fun, and definitely enjoyed that we have a lot of like random people walking the streets of New York or on the train who are dressed up in Halloween costumes because it's around Halloween time, and we have them dressed up as like our classic horror villains. Like, we have a Freddy Krueger, a Michael Myers, I even seen a Pinhead in there, which was kind of cool. They had the Babadook, which was a reference to Scream 5 when Tara is saying that her favorite horror movies is psychological horror, and that was the Babadook. So that was kind of cool to see a little bit of a Babadook cameo. And then of course we had, like I said, we had a Friday the 13th well, there was somebody in the Friday the 13th mask, but we also got a clip of it on TV, which I'm pretty sure was Jason Takes Manhattan, which was really cool. But yeah, we got a lot of those, and we do get some, like I said, we do get a reference to the previous Scream movies, and that brings me to the next part. I really towards the next part I really enjoyed but didn't really like, but I really enjoyed the fact that we do get flashback of all 5, even the third, which isn't the greatest out of the franchise, where we basically get to go through like a museum, which we find out is like a shrine of some sort for our Ghostface, which I won't reveal who. And we get to like, and it shows us little bits and pieces of the film. Like, we had Billy Loomis's his mask, his Ghostface mask, and his robes, along with the knife that he stabbed Sydney with. We had the TV that killed Stu Macher. Even gave us some a Dewey montage showcase, which was kind of sad.
Now, before we start, you've all survived Ghostface in past Scream movies. What's your number one tip to surviving Ghostface?
Outsmart
Get him where it hurts. He's honestly never been that great of a fighter. As long as you throw at least a couple punches,
He's also not very fast, so I feel like as long as you can outrun him. Except maybe in this one, he's kind of fast in this one, but in the previous ones, he's never been really fast.
So I would have to say, like, my least favorite part of this movie would be the ending sequence, the overall final part of the final 20 minutes of the film. Because with it being the last Scream movie in the franchise, I was expecting a little bit more from it, I felt like the Ghostface reveal I figured out 10 minutes into the movie, and whenever I see a horror movie that I can figure out the ending right away, and then if I'm right on the ending, I tend to kind of I just like a horror movie that I can't predict, or that I think is gonna happen, and it gives you a whole plot twist. And this one, because I figured it out in the first 10 minutes, and it wasn't even like something that, like, I could have appreciated it if it was something that I was able to predict and it was something good. But I was kind of at the same time hoping it wasn't, and it bummed me out. Like I said, final Scream movie, we needed a big hoorah moment, like a big final, like the final Ghostface reveal should have been somebody that would have just kind of threw us off, if that makes sense. Like somebody who were like, okay, that makes a little bit more sense and stuff. To me, it didn't make sense on who the Ghostface was. Like it does and it doesn't. Like it does, like I get why, but at the same time, I don't get why. If that makes sense. But that's the only part, honestly, that I had a big tiff on, is that final sequence, and I think it could have been done a lot better than it did, and I was a little disappointed in that. But overall, my overall ranking of this movie, I would definitely say probably an 8 out of 10, because like I said, for the most part leading up to that end sequence, I enjoyed the heck out of this movie. It was a lot of fun. It was intense. There was a scene in there that had me literally on the edge of my seat, about to burst into tears, or burst into anger, whatever type of emotion, and I love when a movie brings that out of me. But yeah, and I definitely enjoyed, like I said, a lot of the Easter eggs and the whole train sequence, a lot in the acting, the special effects, everything was really good. I just, like I said, for a final Scream movie, it should have had a much bigger ending than it did, and I was very disappointed. But I still highly recommend watching it. Like I said, I'm most likely gonna buy this movie when it hits DVD, like I do any other horror movie, but not just any horror movie. It's usually the ones I really enjoy. But I'll definitely buy it. I'll definitely watch it again. Like I said, it was fun. Without the ending, of course, being the way it was, I'd still watch it and still enjoy it from beginning to end. So if you haven't seen it, I definitely recommend going to seeing it. It does definitely tie up everything, at least I hope so, to most. For me, it did. I felt like it really did tie up this franchise, and like with a big ribbon, and it was nice. But yeah, that's my review on the 2023 Scream 6. Definitely would like to hear what your thoughts are. If you want to comment below what you thought of this movie, if you've seen it already, and would you like to see a Scream 7? Like, I really see, I've heard things where they're gonna come out with a Scream 7, that they're in talks about it. I'm not sure if that's been finalized. I don't think it has been. But I kind of hope they just keep it where it's at. Like I said, it still was fun. It was still great to watch, but sometimes, even though our classic horror movies are really fun to watch, some things just need to come to an end. And at this point, I really think they should just leave it where it's at. But I definitely like to hear your thoughts on what you think. Comment below. And I hope you all have a wonderful night. Go see Scream 6 if you haven't already. And just stay spooky, be safe, and I will see you next time. Bye.